Okay, let's look at these couple problems to meet our objective. Um, I will find an area of rectangles, find the area of rectangles that have fractional and whole number side lengths. So, problem one. I need you to find the area of rectangle A. And rectangle A equals 3 units by 2 units. And I know that, it's easy to just be like, oh yeah, 3 times 2 is 6, so that's 6 square units. And you're right, it's 6 square units, but we need to study this a little bit more, okay? So here's 3 units by 2 units. So it's 3 across, 1, 2, 3, something like that, and 2 down. All right. And what I have here is 1 square unit. So 1 square unit. And then I started to use this instead of like 1 inch, I just started to say like 1 unit, 1 unit. So then a square inch is a square unit. So it's kind of a different way to look at it. So got 1 square unit, and I'm just going to use like a tile and tile my, I don't know, the floor of this orange room or this orange floor. So there's 1 square unit and another square unit and another square unit. Okay, so that's 3 across the top, which makes sense. And then it was a 3 by 2, so there's my 4th square unit, 5 square units, and 6 square units. Okay, so this 3 by 2, if it's 3 units by 2 units, if its length is 3 and its width is 2, remind you of that, length times width. Length is 3 and width is 2, it winds up being 6 square units. All right, and that's pretty easy to see. So let's just make this. So draw it in addition to modeling it with that kind of hands-on, or at least I was. Okay, so this is 3 units across and 2 units down. And so there's my 3 units by 2 units, my length and my width. And let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 6 square units, 6 units squared. Okay, that's problem 1. Problem B, we're going to make it a little bit more complicated. I'm sorry, problem 2. I need you to find the area, or I need us to find the area of rectangle B. And rectangle B is, the area is 3 units, or the length and the width, right? Length, width is 3 units by 2.5 units. Okay, so 3 units by 2.5 units. Okay, all right. Well, this one was just 3 by 2, so 2.5 just means it's going to be longer or wider. Okay, so here's my 3 by 2.5. Okay, and you can see 3 units across, same as this one, Same as this one across, but it's a little bit bigger, right? A little bit, width is a little bit more. So 3 by 2.5. You could even say equals the length, and this equals the width, 3 by 2.5. Okay, so let's tile this. When you're tiling things, you need to not overlap, and you need to stay within the the space that you're tiling, right? If you're tiling in order to find the area. Okay, so that's 3 across. Here's 4. 5. 6. Okay, and then what I did is I took whole ones here, and I just folded them in half to make my half unit, right? So that's 6.5, and another half is 7. So I just labeled that's a half a unit, and a half a unit. I just labeled it that way so that you could see that we're just counting 6.5, 7. And of course, this is 7.5. So if a shape or a rectangle is 3 units across by 2.5 units, its area is going to be 7.5. Its area will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 whole, and then 2 halves put together is another 7. So we have 6. That's this 6 plus these 2 halves, half plus a half, that's a whole, plus another half, right? So it's 7.5. Too much stuff written on here. So that's 7 so far, plus a half equals 7.5. But you can just see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5. All right. So how is this going to look? A model of this, a drawing of this. It's going to be 3 units, so same as that one. 3 units by 2.5. And notice I'm just using my blue lines there on my line paper to help me make the 2.5. So it would be 3 by 2.5. So this is 3 units across and 2.5 units down. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A half by 1, a half by 1, and a half by 1. So these are half unit squares. No, it's not. It's half a square unit, I guess. Half a square unit. Half a square unit, half a square unit, and another half a square unit equals 1.5 square units plus the 6 that were already there. So it's 7.5 square units. All right. You can also just multiply the same way you could here, 3 times 6. So 3 times 6, 3 times 2. 3 times 2 equals 6 square units. That's the end of the story. Same thing here. Equals 3 times 2.5. Well, so we'll do 3 times, turn this into an improper fraction, so 5 halves is going to be 15 halves. So that's 15 halves square units, which is 15 divided by 2 is 7.5 square units. So these are, of course, the same because, as you saw, 7.5 square units and 7.5 square units here. And when we multiply 3 times 5/2, we get 7.5. Okay, so now I need you to do problem 3, which is similar. Let's do, so this is rectangle C. You find area of rectangle C. Rectangle C is 2 units. Length times width is 2 units by 1 3/4 units. Okay, so we'll do 2 units by 1 3/4. So let's say, yeah, so this is 2 by 1. So that's, no, scratch that. So this is, it's 1 by 1, 1 by 1, another 1 by 1, so that's 2, 1 by 3/4, and another 1 by 3/4. So this would be 2 3/4 plus another 1 by 3/4, which is 3/4. So I'm adding 2 3/4 to 3/4, and I'm going to get 3.5. Probably I should have just put that there. There. So how about this? So we have 1 here, 3/4, and 3/4. So 1 plus 1 plus 3/4 plus 3/4 is 2. And then, so this is 6/4, which is going to be 1.5, right? So that equals 3.5. Could I have just multiplied it? Sure. 2 times 1 3/4 is, let's change the 1 3/4 to 7/4. Yeah. So it's 2 times 7/4, and that's going to equal 14/4, which is going to equal 14 divided by 4 is 3. 3 2/4, which is of course the same as 3.5. And so it's 3.5 square units. Well, what's the area of rectangle C? 3.5 square units. All right.